Forgot about this. Hello everybody, it's me, Ray-Kon here, and I hope you've all been having a wonderful day. Actually, let me check something. Let's see. What happens? Okay, perfect. Once more, hello everybody, it's me, Ray-Kon here, and I hope you've all been having a wonderful day. Today we shall be discussing something of an important matter, and it is a topic that I've been contemplating for a while, but something that I've only gotten to work recently, and that is, what if we made the custom boss monsters of Cardfight Vanguard and give them upgrades? Now, what I mean is, if the likes of Shieldfisher, Iron Anchor, and their ilk of common rarity cards, as in quite literally the C, as in common cards, having an upgrade, one would say even a sort of cross-ride sort of ability. Not necessarily cross-rides, just updated versions of these cards. Similar how a lot of the boss monsters in D series have already gotten a upgrade of these cards. Basically just base versions of these cards that are better. And I've worked all day yesterday, well, when I mean yesterday, I mean today, into making these cards. So, would you like to see them? So let me show you for a bit. And this is the custom upgrades for the common rarity Vanguards. So, let's get started. Now, for the first boy that we are going to be looking into, it's Shieldfisher. And some of the things that I did for this particular card are... The things I did for these cards were both an update to the skill, so it can be sort of like, while not meta relevant, these cards can compete against those other decks, and if triggers go around, or just they get lucky enough, or they proceed a particular strategy, they're able to win against these decks. So the first one is Shieldfisher Dragon. Now, the unit I decided to update a name, and instead of just doing with Shieldfisher Dragon, we went with Stormward Veteran Shieldfisher Steadfast. And his skills read as follows. Continuous. Obviously, we keep the first skill, which is Vanguard Rearguard Circle. This unit can only attack if you call a rearguard other than from hand this turn. So that is something that's going to be very important for all the other cards. Their base ability is still there, but we added base ability plus something on top in order to just give these cards a little bit more flavor. So the second skill is Auto Vanguard on Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, Soul Blast 1, perform all the following effect based around the amount of units called to rearguard other than from hand. Now, 2 or more, draw 1 card. 3 or more, this unit gains 10k power and counter charge 1 or energy charge 3. And 4 or more, choose one of your Great One units. It can attack an additional time this turn, so a restand ability is what I was meaning to say, but retire it at the end of the battle. Now, for those people who do know how I operate and how I've done streams and have seen some of the streams, I am a big fan of Shieldfisher Dragon. I am an incredibly big fan of this unit. So, when basing off this skill, at least for this unit, I had sort of a better idea compared to the other boss monsters. I have a good idea about Iron Anchor Dragon, but like Shieldfisher is like my go-to guy since I built plenty of decks around this guy. So the strategy basically is working around the fact that yes, you have to call units from outside of the rear guard in order to Shieldfisher to be able to attack, in order for it 18k body to do something. And then I basically play around with that. So I play with like, let's use the amounts then. So the reason I show Soul Blast is because Shieldfisher, the support units that Shieldfisher got, which funnily enough, he got support units was crazy enough. One of them is Blessed Rain Fairy, which is a grade 1, which both units are grade 1, but Blessed Rain Fairy, which was the first one, is a Counterblast 1 unit. Superior call this card from drop zone if your Vanguard has Shieldfisher Dragon on its name, or Shieldfisher in its name. So, and then when this unit's called, it also gains plus 5k power. So that's a Counterblast. But then for the Energy Blast, I think it took a year in order for us, a year or two, to get the second card for Shieldfisher, which was Headless Assault. which is the Energy Blast tree from drop. You can Superior Call this unit if you have a Shield Fisher Dragon, and then Superior Call this unit, and then give your Vanguard plus 5k. So that simple fact of just getting the extra either counter charge or energy charge, either the counter charge 1 or the energy charge 3, is in order to sort of pay back for those units. But the draw 1 is just an extra bit of just consistency in order for this unit, because Shield Fisher by itself in its deck doesn't do anything. The units just call themselves in order for Shield Fisher to be able to do his thing, so he can attack and just operate, get the twin drive. And just the extra draw is just something you need to do if you get, oh, you called 2 cards and you did either Blast Rain Fairy and Headless Assault, or you did something else, then you basically get this upgrade of getting the draw. Then 3 or more get the power plus counter charge. Energy charge 3 is part of just getting Shield Fisher into the magic numbers, and then just, you know, just being a 28k, and if you did Headless Assault, you're a 33k, so you hit a pretty decent number. But this deck isn't really as crazy. It's just mostly Shield Fisher just getting more power. And then the 4 or more is choose one of your Great One units. It can attack at additional time this turn, but retire at the end of the battle. So the reason I have this 4 or more for a extra attack is just a very interesting way to get the unit in drop zone, which was my entire point for that card. You see, in order for you to having these Great Ones to be functional as much as possible, both Headless Assault and Blast Rain Fairy, you need to have them in the drop zone. But in order to do that, we would have to run other cards that have retire abilities, which we do have some good ones. We can have a Great One that if this unit boosts, you can retire 2 Great One or less units and then give 10k power and then give a draw. That's very neat. But sometimes we don't have access to that unit and that extra plus, so we need like another way to get to that. So this is just another way. Another thing that I wanted to add to this card that I forgot to write as I'm reading this is that the 10k boost also operates on the fact that when this unit gets attacked, and if you do the 3 or more, which is on Guardian Step, then you can get the plus 10k, but not the draw. Just this ability, but only if you guard with like 3 cards and only that battle. In order to make Shield Fisher, you know, shield, which was the entire point. Also, the 4th skill was surprisingly enough built around the fact that he has that his anchor that he has on his cannon right there is like over there and just operates. I just had the thought process like, what if he just shoots a unit? And yeah, just grab one of your Great Ones, throw it at the enemy, and then you get a 4th attack. Plus the unit doesn't get a lot of power, so it just like, it's a common boss monster that can do some things, get a draw. He can do things. Shield Fisher is not just a sitting duck of just not doing anything. Because while I'm a big fan of him just being 18k body big boy, I'm a big fan of that. Him basically having a bunch of cards just built around him is fun, but I wanted to just give him a little bit more oomph. Just, you know, just make him hit harder, you know, make it so that sometimes the opponent does have to think about a bit just when facing Shield Fisher, instead of just being like, oh, it's just a gimmick deck. Then it's just like, yeah, it's a gimmick deck, but it's Shield Fisher as a veteran. He's been fighting already in Crave for like a few years, and he's gotten better. He learned how to get an extra draw so we can get a bit of resource, get a bit more power so he can hit on his own. Just 28k if you do Headless Assault, that's a 33k, very neat, and he can get a bit of a counter charge, not bad. And then just an extra attack, 4th attack. Like, I don't want to put the Great One restriction. There's no Great restriction. Let's think about it that way. But like, yeah, I just genuinely thought of this like this way. Just give all these common boss monsters that do exist in the game that Bushiroad did try to make them work, just work. And just be something like, yeah, you can get a win sometimes. Like, probably not never, but you can do it. Okay, so now we are jumping onto the next unit, and that is Abyss Anchor Resentment Dragon Wraith. It's obviously based off the original unit, which is Iron Anchor Resentment Dragon. And this particular card's original gimmick was when you would play a normal order, you can bind a normal order with the same card name from your drop and Alchemagic. So you see, this is a very interesting fact. This is an alternative Alchemagic, which technically has the keyword, but operates in a completely different way. For those who don't know, Zorga Alchemagic works that you have to have 2 different orders with 2 different names in order to activate said Alchemagic. But in Iron Anchor's case, he needs 2 orders of the exact same name in order to operate. So this is a very interesting twist, but it also makes it so that these cards can only function in certain ways that other cards do not. So let us read what else we have on top of that ability. Obviously, we have the Alchemagic Enabler by his own ability, but then we have the added skill that we added, other than the name of Abyss Anchor Resentment Dragon Wraith. Now, the new skill reads, if you perform Alchemagic, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, search for an order card from among them, and add it to your hand. If you do not have a card with the same card name in your drop zone, place that order card in your drop zone. Then, the third skill, Continuous Vanguard Circle. For each order card in your bind zone from your units, gain plus 5k power. Obviously, I forgot to add the emphasis of the it's on your turn. In order for this to function, it's not like something you have always on. That'd be a bit too broken. Like, he would actually become a viable unit because of that. But no, it's during your turn. And the last skill, which is Auto Vanguard Circle, and it is at the end of your turn, if you have 3 or more order cards in your bind zone, draw 1 card and choose either a counter charge or a soul charge, and then proc that. Now, let me just go step by step of how I'm doing this. So, this first skill that we added is if we perform Alchemagic. So he works similar as the grade 2 unit that we have on Stoichea, which also reads somewhat similar, except you don't have to perform Alchemagic. It's actually an on-placed ability. But the thing I want to add on this is because we need the extra synergy and also the extra versatility in terms of like, what do we have in our drop zone in order to enable the Alchemagic? You see, the problem with the Alchemagic from Iron Anchor is that if you, for some reason, do not have the card in drop with the exact same name and the card in hand with the exact same name, you will not be able to do Alchemagic. So, but it's usually very simple to at least have one Alchemagic ready. But what if you don't draw the exact same card again? But what if you don't draw? So this is just an extra option, an extra safety net for this card in order for you to just, in case you whiffed the first Alchemagic, you did the first Alchemagic, you can't get the other copy, but you do have another one that you can get access to this. But also the extra thing is if you already have that card in the drop zone, then this just helps you get that Alchemagic and the other order into hand. So very neat. But it also works in synergy with the other card that does also work similar to that. It doesn't add cards to hand, but when placed, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, push your order card from amongst it. If you do not have that, if that card in the drop zone, then you can drop that card in the drop zone. So you can technically do that guy first, then you can do Alchemagic, and then do Resentment Dragon. And that grade 2 unit also has a second ability, which reads, when you Alchemagic, you can Soul Blast 1 card. This unit gains 5k power. Then you can bounce the unit in the board back into the hand. So it has an extra synergy with that card, which is a card that's very important in this particular deck in order for you to be able to perform Alchemagic. Now, the third skill is obviously the getting extra 5k power during your turn. I forgot to add the during your turn thing. It was really rushed in order to get all this done in time. Sorry about that. But for each order card in your bind zone, from road unit gains plus 5k power. Now, this is just a simple thing. For some reason, well, not for some reason, Stoic, because of Alchemagic, we have a sort of bind mechanic, sort of, in Stoichea that some other cards do support. So this is basically a sort of cheap way, quote unquote, that I made so that Resentment Dragon can give a bit more power to the board. And also the fact, so if you have the other units that do the binding mechanic, specifically order cards, and you can't just sheet it out with unit cards in bind zone, then you can have the other units with the binding from drop zone card, like a Coffin Shooter card that has a Soul Blast 1 drop zone. You can bind an order card from your drop zone, and then Superior Cultist unit into an open rearguard circle. So that is a way you can sheet out extra power. But yeah, it's basically just a very nice way of just sheeting extra power, and you know, neat. It's from row board, so generic. Then the last skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. At the end of your turn, if you have 3 or more order cards in your bind zone, draw 1 card and choose either counter charge or soul charge. So basically the slash you usually see on cards when you do either counter charge or soul blast, where basically it forces you to choose one. So the reason I did this is mostly just because just a little bit of extra synergy and just trying to get stuff into the, I'm just trying to get like some extra resource. Sadly, a pattern that's been happening with Bushi lately with a lot of card design is that they've been name locking cards, and if they don't name lock, they've been locking Alchemagic with a type of skill. So with particularly Zorga, they've just been tying cards to not just only Zorga, but they've also been tying it to the last iteration of Zorga, which is the Divine Skill one. So they've been tying cards with not just Zorga, but also if you have Zorga with the Divine Skill. So even some Zorga cards can't use that card fully to its full potential. So that's fairly annoying. So in order to make this common card, because I really want to emphasize that we're making these cards common still, we're making this common card have some way in shape or form that it can stand on its own. So obviously having an ability that lets them prepare a extra bit of resource is very neat. Just makes it this card if you're doing any type of alchemagic with some of the older alchemagic cards that require like a Soul Blast 2 or a Counter Blast 2 or something like that, because you're activating 2 of the same. Hell, some of the older alchemagic cards that have alchemagic synergy to them are a Soul Blast 2 per card, so you have to be a Soul Blast 4. So this just helps you out with that whole thing of trying to get resources in the board, and also this helps you try to make a bit more flexible with how you add cards to the deck, so you don't have to necessarily add a lot of cards with alchemagic specific synergy to it. You can just add some other cards so you can go back to the third skill and try to sheet out the extra power. So that's a particular method that I've just been getting to: Abyss, Anchor, Resentment, Dragon, Wraith. Also, the neat thing is that I've been trying to like read up on the cards' names and like their flavor text in order to see if I can sort of like give them like a different name or to like a different style to them, or like more into of how they operate. So Abyss, Anchor, Resentment, Dragon, Wraith is basically just a play on the fact that he's Iron Anchor, Resentment Dragon. So we just made it like he's still angry after a long time. He still has that resentment. He still has that anger. So he just went deeper into the Abyss. So his anchor became the Abyss Anchor. And then his Resentment Dragon just became something of a wraith, just a spirit dragon that's just waiting for its moment to strike. And it has gone stronger by going deeper into its anchor. So now, let us jump to the next card, which is Awakened Dragon of Ruination Riftbreaker. Now, this is an interesting card. Now, let me talk a little bit of this card. Is mostly of how it's had an impact on the premium scene. You see, when this card initially launched on Standard, a lot of people in Standard were like, it's sort of good, but it's not that amazing. But the people in the premium scene saw something different. You see, in premium format, there is a order that... There's an order that has a Counter Blast 3 Soul Blast 3 ability, which gives you a 33k power to the front row. Now, it's relevant because of the first skill of Awakened Dragon of Ruination Riftbreaker, which is auto indigenous place on Vanguard Circle, choose a normal order from your drop zone, and you may play it without paying the cost. Actually, I went around this the wrong order. I'll be talking about that later. I first gave the introduction of the card. That was dumb of me, sorry. Oh wait, I'm a bit to the side of it. Let's fix that for a second. Sorry, gumin. Just grab my face. Move myself to the side. Wait, why am I a bit to the side? That could be a VTube Studio thing. There we go. That's a bit better. Check. Yeah, a bit more centralized. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we can go to this prompt. Now, let's go over Awakened Dragon of Ruination, Riftbreaker. Give me a second. Okay. Sorry about that, we had a very brief interruption. Close the door properly. And the AC is... God damn it. I'll save links. Give me a sec. Okay, give me a second. Un segundo. And we're back. Okay, now we can properly go around this card. So, Awakened Dragon of Ruination Riftbreaker, which is the upgrade version of Fabricated Dragon of Ruination. Treats, obviously, first skill, auto win decisions placed on Vanguard Circle, choose an order from your drop zone, and you may play without paying a cost. Then, second skill, continuous. It's obviously Vanguard Circle. All these are Vanguard Circle. I'm just, again, press for time. Orders used for this unit's cards are bound instead of staying in the order zone after use. Now, that will be interesting for later. And auto, when this unit attacks, depending on the number of cards in your bind zone, activate the following effects. So, one or more, choose one of your cards from your drop zone, add it to your hand, and two or more, your from your units get 5k power until the end of the turn. And third or more, this unit gets drive +1. So, there's a particular reason why I did this. And the first time I'm actually adding the drive +1 on this particular unit. And the reason I did this in particular, and then I'll go ramble about the first skill and it's the President Premium, is mostly because overall, in comparison to some of the order cards on Stoicheia and the order cards in general are not always one card broken card for the entire nation. There's no order that is absolutely powerful, does everything without a name restriction or so on and so forth, like I explained with Zorga before. So adding like bonuses to this unit for like cards in bind zone, order cards in bind zone is not terrible, not necessarily something that, well, cards in bind zone is something that's a detriment to this card. Also, now we're going to be talking about the first thing about this unit is that when this unit first came out initially for premium format was the format where it's broken, because again, there's not really any order from the beginning of the game or the end of the game that's wholly broken on its own. They're good, but they're not broken in any shape or form. But in the premium format, there is an order with a Counterblast 3 Soul Blast 3 ability that gives 30k to the entire front row. And since when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you can just do that and get a 30k for free. That's just a front row power boost that's insane. This was slotted into Stoicheia in Mega Colony initially, just to have a overwhelming power, plus in combination with Gridor, which gives you like a control over the opponent's board, a multi-attack, and also 30k initial attack. And if you restood this, which by that time restanding for abilities were something that this nation had quite a few of and many methods of getting out. But in standard, this was just a wet noodle. Like, there is a certain combination where there was with an order that gave you an extra drive, but which costed a Soul Blast and discard, if I remember correctly, it was a discard of another order. But sadly, that card recently was errata to work only now with freaking Zorga, because for some reason it'd be too broken not to be with Zorga, which is dumb. There was no other deck that could abuse his order nearly as much as Zorga could, or as flexible as Zorga could. There wasn't. But now it's restricted to Zorga, so we're all kind of screwed. So in order to fix that particular problem, we've added some extra stuff in order for him to just do things. So obviously we added the bind mechanic. So instead of just activating card for free and just having that enabled forever, we added the bind mechanic so it's not as free, but also it helps you interact with the other cards with a bind mechanic tied in the common and rare rarities of Stoicheia. So something very neat. And obviously just added an little bit of extra so he can actually do something on his own, which is obviously for each card in the bind zone, which is again something that you can cheat out with the respective grade 1s and grade 2s and other units that have a bind mechanic, and just to help you increase that total amount, which is obviously this unit attacks depending on the number of cards in your bind zone. Activate the following effects: one or more, choose one of your cards from your drop zone and add it to your hand. Just lets you recur some cards from your drop zone instead of just having a superior call. Two or more, your front row units get plus 5k power until the end of turn. Just a tiny bit of power. 5k power from your front row is not that strong if you have other cards that have like an extra power boost on them. This card can make other cards stronger because of the other cards' abilities. But overall, on their own, all these cards are kind of useless. And 3 or more, this unit gets drive +1. Just a method to get the extra. Just makes this unit a lot more lethal. Like, these cards could not be double rares. The way I'm upgrading these cards, I'm basically being like, oh, they jump from common to rare. That's it. But these cards are overall, even then, there's some common cards that are coming out that came out that are still broken, are still very useful. But like these upgrades are basically, oh, you're not a common anymore, you're rare. You're infinitely a bit more better. But yeah, this fabricated dragon really needed an upgrade. This doesn't do anything, and even in premium, this card is not played anymore as part of the meta. Like sometimes you can see this guy, he can cheat out some wins or just get some fancy things, but like it doesn't do anything. So now, Awakened Dragon of Ruination Ripbreaker just does a lot more. Obviously, now let's talk about the name. So Awakened Dragon of Ruination. I didn't do it with Shieldfisher. We'll go back to Shieldfisher at the end. We'll do that. But Awakened Dragon of Ruination Ripbreaker. Awakened is mostly just because of how its lore implies that he was basically a dead dragon or a dead thing or something that did not exist and it just gained life. But it sort of just works as the repeater overlap concept that it gained the wings as they take off from the sea, so it finally escaped. So Awakened just gained into more power. So Dragon of Ruination, and then suddenly, instead of just being a fabricated Dragon of Ruination, it became Riftbreaker. Just a dragon who gained enough power to break free from the rift and create its own rift. He is the one who breaks the rift. So it sort of works into the fact that it has a bind zone mechanic. And I just wanted Soikia to have a boss monster that just works with the bind zone, man. It's just there's so many common and rare cards that have like, and just other cards that have like bind zone mechanics, but they overall just do it for like alchemagic stuff or just alchemagic stuff. But like, no, like do something with this. This is actually interesting. So it's like play around with those cards. Those are very interesting. I would love that. Okay, that's enough of him. We will jump into the fourth card. And that fourth card is Piercing Bullet of Dust Storm Maynard. Now, this is a very interesting card because while it came out, it wasn't really, well, it was seen as a common, one of the common boss ones because you can do the Vanguard ability. Sadly, it's not that great. This unit reads, when this unit's placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle in auto ability, counterblast 2, choose your opponent's Rearguard to retire all your opponent's Rearguard in the same column as that unit. Now, the reason this unit was not as great during that time is for the particular reason that there was quite a few decks that have retire abilities, or usually they could pick up board and just leave. While not many clans or nations, just nations or decks had that type of ability, there was plenty enough decks that just picked up most of their stuff and just left at minimum one card. So the counterblasting 2 in order to miss nearly the entire row just to pop 1 was not that good. And even then, Shieldfisher was better, and this is, not Shieldfisher, and Eugene was better. And this is Eugene we're talking about. That's a bad boss monster. The original Eugene was badly made. Compared to his contemporaries, all of them were way better than Eugene. Eugene was just bad. So, in order to make him a bit better, we added, obviously, the bunch of few upgrades. So, let us talk about Final Shot of the Dust Storm, Maynard Deadlock. And he reads, obviously, the first skill was modified in comparison to its other contemporaries, which is, when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, Counterblast 2, Counterblast 1, so we reduce the Counterblast 2 to 1, because Counterblast 2 for a row pop is not worth. Choose one of your opponent's Rearguard Circles, and retire your opponent's Rearguard in the same column as this unit. So, obviously, for the Vanguard Rearguard thing, the Rearguard Circle does not exist. This is a main Vanguard ability, because Counterblast want to pop a row like that and have that ability to just go around it would be a bit too broken and something I would run to Eugene, honestly. So, okay, maybe. But then I would have to have, like, raise the rarity for this card. And this card will be at most getting a rare upgrade is basically what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm thinking about, honestly. Anyway, now, for the rest of the skill is... This is basically when this unit attacks abilities like the other ones, but again, this was very scuffed and now it was made, so please bear with me. When this unit attacks, basically, depending on the amount, this is based off the first ability, so it all works out in the same time. So basically, depending on the amount of units retired, the same column as that unit, it goes if one circle is open in that column, draw 1 card, so get a draw +1. Then, if 2 or more circles are open on that column, this unit gets 10k power until the end of turn. Then, the last thing that happens in this unit is if no units are retired from the targeted column, refund the counterblast cost. So let us start discussing this. And basically, the added this is just to add the value of just how this card operates. So these are a Vanguard circle operative thing. If this is meant to operate like a Vanguard rearguard circle, which I'm focusing on being a Vanguard, being like an alternative dust storm boss monster. So if one circle is open, the column that was destroyed, you draw one card. See, you get something out of that, you know. And one open circle. So even if you're popping the opponent's back row in behind the Vanguard, then you at least get something, just, you know, power. So if 2 or more are open in that circle, this unit gets 10k power until the end of that turn. So just gets power overall, just 23k. Doesn't really make him magical. It would have been better to just give him a 15k, just make him awfully big better, can hit his magic numbers on his own, but like not really my focus on that. Obviously, we're not going to be, this is just making them slightly better. None of these cards are genuinely broken. They're just better at what they do. And they can just do things that works better on their mechanic. And then the last ability is obviously just refund the counterblast if you whiff. Because obviously, this is an on-placed ability. So there's a likelihood that if you just ride this guy, you can just get no targets whatsoever. But you can still proc the rest of the ability. But then the counterblast, you can sort of refund it. Obviously, the counterblast refund is also because of the circle targeting. So it could just be that nothing hit. But I made it so that even if you don't hit, you can still proc something. So something can be done. You can't just, your opponent can't just be like, oh, I locked my entire board is like, there's nothing there. You can't target it or something like that. It's just like, even if nothing happens, if no units are retired from that column, you can counterblast, get that counterblast one. Obviously, this is still not an incredibly great boss monster, but it does sting. It's something you can else do with dust storms. There's not really a lot of other dust storm cards that work with other dust storm cards. A lot of them are still name type to Eugene, which kind of sucks. Some of them are not, but like most of them are. So sad, but we try to do something. And on now we talk about the name. So the final shot of Dust Storm made Nard deadlock. So the reason we have final shot is mostly because piercing bullets of Dust Storm, his whole thing is basically I'm just popping the rover regardless or not. So we're doing the final shot of the Dust Storm. So basically he kills the target whether you like it or not. You have no way to get it out unless you actually use the regardless piece that protects your units from moving or getting retired in any way, shape, or form. But basically, you'd be like, I'm doing this. I'm activating this in order to prevent that. But like, overall, compared to some of the other cards, this is like the least strongest. We could give it some upgrades. I'm open to like people throwing up their ideas. This is, for those who don't know, this is all open for you to like throw in the dark as well. It's just like, what can we do to upgrade these cards? Something that I actually want to do in the future is like, if I can find an artist with like, that can commission me like upgraded version of these cards and how they would look, I would do that. We'll 100% pay them for the art. But yeah, that is all we have. Oh yeah, final shot, obviously last bullet we're going to be hitting. Basically I'm popping that rover, would you like it or not. And then deadlock, basically he has you inside. This is the final shot, you are dead on lock. So just something, you know, just neat. I'm really happy with that. So next card is another card that I did, that I tried many times as well, but this is from Dark State, and he is a fun guy, and I've seen people also contemplate of just like, oh yeah, this guy is pretty cool, and he is pretty cool. His art is pretty cool. And he is Sky Severing Demonic Blade, Alter Slaughter. Now his initial ability read as a Vanguard once per turn, so last 6 grade 0 cards. And then Soul Charge 6, choose 6 of your units, and they get 10k power until the end of the turn. That's all he did. He basically distributed it on the board, 6,000 power. Basically, if you want to make this perfect, and like each row, 3,000 on each row. So you basically be just getting a 30k. If you only have like 1 unit per board for each row, you basically be getting 40k, 43k units that can hit. And so on and so forth. So, how do we upgrade this little guy? How does this lad? So, this is Dimension Severing Infernal Blade, Alter Slaughter Finale. And he reads, act once per turn, as another card that we changed the first skill is, counterblast 6 grade 0 cards. So charge 6 cards, choose 6 units, and negate plus 15k power, and negate, and choose 3 units, and those units get crit plus 1 until the end of turn. Then second skill reads auto Vanguard circle. At the end about that this unit attack, that a unit attacks, retire 1 Vanguard in the exact same column as the unit that attack. Put 1 unit from your drop zone. Retire it and put 1 unit from your drop zone into your soul. So the reason I am doing this particular thing that I did with Alter Slaughter is simply just make that technically final attack be final and give it that lethality. So obviously we made Finale. So we made Alter Slaughter Finale a bit more lethal. So we gave him just a tiny bit more power, just an extra 5k power. It being given to an extra 5k is basically just an extra 15k given to every other row. So basically it's just 15k to the left, 15k to the right. That's basically what we are doing. Obviously, if you want to attack the Vanguard, that basically means you can reshape to the Vanguard as well, so it can hit actually good numbers. So if you give a 15k, he's a 28k, so he hits magic numbers. And for basically for every 2 cards that you bound, that you soul blast, you get an additional power. So basically you can give a crit to each row. So Alter Slaughter can get a crit, your other rigger can get a crit, your other unit can get a crit. Yes, fairly neat ability. Just makes everything a lot more lethal. So if your opponent's just like not paying attention, just do this kill. Then the second ability is less for getting back resource, which is something that I contemplated and something I'm still thinking about, and I still think about with Alter Slaughter, but like I had a schedule, so I had to move a bit. But something that I did think about is that if I really want to do this again, then I really want to like get something. So basically I made it so that I can retire things and then get the card from dropping soul. So if our soul charge is mostly a dud, or we soul charge at least some grade 0 cards, then we're able to refund like 3, if we're lucky, more cards and drops, and so we can do it again next turn. Obviously, for something like this, I would like try to give him like a triple drive just to make him like actually lethal, because the condition for 6 grade 0 cards is fairly difficult. So like giving him an extra drive doesn't sound as ridiculous as you think, considering he doesn't really have anything generic. There's some cards that are where they feel like they were designed for him, but nothing is really name locked to Alter Slaughter. So this it just seems it could work for him, honestly. Obviously, getting him like an extra draw or something like that, I would assume that extra draw would not be like something I could do. At most, like for the second skill, we could give it like an extra draw, but I feel like a drive check would be a lot better, because this seems like a bit too much. Well, considering how much you're committing, I don't know. It is room to like discuss to see how this will work. Now, for the name of Dimension Severing Infernal Blade, Alter Slaughter Finale. So, Dimension Severing is because he has Sky Severing, Alter Slaughter. So basically, it's just like he severs the skies, then he severs the dimension. He's way stronger. He's a lot more lethal. So I think I should get like something else. Like the extra drive actually seems like it sounds earned. And Infernal Blade, substituting Demon Blade, just something a lot more demonic, so on and so forth. And Alter Slaughter Finale is mostly because we have like a sort of cathedral that's in the background of him while he's doing this ability. So instead of doing like something like Requiem, we can instead do something like Finale. Like this is the final blow from the Dimension Severing the Infernal Blade. That is the whole premise. I feel like we could give him like something extra, like an extra drive, because to make this sound like an actual lethal thing, and it's still fairly hard to like get to this, because again, there's not enough like cards for it to do that. It could probably do it on the grade 3 turn, but I don't think it could kill. And also doing it again is gonna be fairly hard, even with the second ability. So yeah, I think this is like fairly fine difficulty wise of like how it should operate, this card. And then we have the nearly the end card and our last card that we managed to upgrade, which is Electromagnetic Monster Rarity or something like that. Now, for those who don't know, this is worse Shield Fisher. Like, worse. It's easier to get out of his restriction to enable to attack because he is a counterblast. If your order zone has no cards, his unit cannot attack. This is easier. Usually in Suicat, you do have cards that enable an order zone. So that's usually not a problem. Not really. So it's a less restrictive restriction, but with a bit less power, just being 15k on this case. But the thing is here is that 15k doesn't do it, and the other unit that exists for him is just basically a unit that gets a power boost. A 10k power boost, but it's a great one, so it's like not that great. So how do we upgrade this electromagnetic monster? Well, we do it with Hyper-Electric Monster Rarity Surge, and he reads, additional to this ability of your order has no cards unit cannot attack, which is in the bottom. Continuous Vanguard Rigor Circle. This unit gains power plus 5k for each order card in your order zone. If you have 4 or more orders, this unit gets crit plus 1. If you have 5 or more orders, this unit gets drive plus 1. We'll discuss why I chose that particular. Now, Continuous Vanguard Rigor Circle to your opponent's battle phase. This unit gains 5k power for every 2 order cards in your order zone. See, here I properly implemented that, but we'll talk about later. And then Continuous Vanguard Rigor Circle. If your order zone has no other cards, this unit cannot attack. So, we will be discussing why I added what it seems to be like the most... Oh, Momo Shizama, how are you? We had a wonderful day. What, in like this one in particular? Because the thought process for making this card is both on the flavor text that this unit has and the fact that this unit itself is not that overall strong in comparison to Shield Fisher and its contemporary. Compared to Shield Fisher, this is like worse Shield Fisher in every shape or form. Now, the reason I made it so that these other abilities, he gains an extra 5k power during his turn, because basically the flavor text implies that this monster is fairly selfish. So he's basically trying to like siphon out all the other powers from the orders into your order zone. So all your set orders, he's basically siphoning them. So he's getting extra 5k, extra 5k, extra 5k. So if you're technically activating a set order every turn, you can technically make this unit a 30k on its own, technically speaking. But it will be a lot more harder to get to the 4th ability, which is like getting a crit plus 1, which makes it a bit fair. And if you have 5 or more orders, you get drive plus 1. So getting it like an extra crit and drive is like something that's a lot more difficult to do for Surge in particular here. Plus the second ability just makes it so he actually operates in a proper defensive method, because 15k is not good for defending. Maybe we all know this. It's just like 18k is like the minimum of going past the threshold. So since he's an awkward number, we just made that awkward number just be easier to get. So obviously the defensive ability of getting extra 5k during the opponent's turn for the battle phase is basic. And yeah, just the second ability is fairly good, but it's fairly difficult to do. In your third grade 3 turn, basically, if you're again able to set orders like every turn from grade 1 to grade 3, then you have 3 set orders, but you can only get an extra 5k. So basically your opponent, so you have a 20k unit that basically functions like an extra power shield. You're basically the equivalent if you're over 18. So if your opponent hits 18, they have to hit like 23 in order to be able to hit, which honestly, compared to a lot of rare decks and just like decks in general, hitting 23 is not that hard and not fairly difficult. But if you're able to survive the turn and get to the 4th turn, then you're obviously going to be a 25k, which is something a lot more easier to guard, and also gives more incentive of why this card doesn't have a lot of draw abilities, even though Stick has quite a few generic cards that lets you look for set orders and so on and so forth, lets you regenerate some type of resource. You could probably combine this guy also with the unit that searches for a blitz order as well, in case you need like the extra survivability, because this guy basically just becomes stronger and stronger the more set orders you place. And so the longer this game goes and the more you have set orders, then you can just keep going with this guy. So that's basically the idea. Now, as for how this name of this unit was selected, was Hyper Electric was like the next level of like high energy electricity that existed for this monster. So if this card uses the electromagnetic, then just make him a bit more stronger, hyper electric. And then Surge is basically because he's basically in a power surge of just having so much power. He's the kaiju that everybody's trying to kill, so on and so forth. Now, for the last card that is a bit weird and a bit embarrassing, it's because it's this guy. Tiltilus Dragon Musashid Armor. This unit reads: the normal ride from hand on this unit by a unit with a different card name is regarded as a persona ride. So the upgrade for this guy is he's unfixable. Now, the reason I thought this is because, generally speaking, what can I do with this ability? He exists to be nothing. Quite literally. He basically functions in order to be a fourth persona ride you can have in your deck. But that also means that this is probably your starting Vanguard, and your starting Vanguard does nothing. The most I could ever contemplate. That's the thing. There's a lot of common and rare cards that are really good. They have amazing art, but they just don't really do anything. They either get plus 5k power, and you're just like, this art was wasted here. So sadly, while Musashid Armor has a very cool concept, because honestly, this could have been a Murakumo card. They could have like done like, if you have other Musashid Armors on your rear guard, they get an extra 5k power. Then we could have done like a Murakumo style unit, but no, this unit functions as like an extra persona ride, and he's fairly weird. Funnily enough, he got a support card, but it doesn't do anything. It basically just can superior call itself if you ride and you have Musashid Armor on Vanguard or on Rearguard, if this card's on Soul or like on Drop Zone. I think it was Drop Zone. And also this unit can get counter plus 1, gets a plus 10k power. It's not something that can be used, and basically it was a pretty much confirmation that this card basically is very weird, and we don't know how to properly like build around it, sadly. So the best I could do is just like yeah, just don't know, like make a superior ride that asks that I have to have Musashid Armor, like make a proper cross ride. I could have done that, but like I didn't think about it. It was very weird. Now let's go back to Stormward Veteran. Give me a sec. Yeah, we did that. Now, again, the thing that I didn't discuss with Shieldfisher Dragon was its name. Now, the reason Stormward Veteran Shieldfisher Steadfast is the particular name is basically the function of Shieldfisher, how he operates, and basically the fact he's existed basically since set 2. Him, Iron Anchor, and the other one, Resentment. Well, the other one, not the Iron Anchor. Basically were the boss monsters, the budget boss monsters that existed nearly the beginning of the game. So these cards that exist since 2021. So basically Storm Ward Veteran. So basically he's the Storm Ward. He's been warding the storm for a while, and he's the veteran of combat. Shieldfisher Steadfast. I got rid of the dragon because I forgot he had a dragon in his name, but Steadfast just sounds way cooler. And Steadfast basically because it's Steadfast Shield. He's Shieldfisher. You know, he's the big boy. But I think that's all I did for this. Momo, did you hear about the other cards? Would you like to hear them about them? It's your call. Because I mostly did this stream, mostly just to have it like a recording sort of. Okay. So basically, Stormward Veteran, Shieldfisher Dragon. The upgraded version of Shieldfisher has the first ability, that's the basic ability. Vanguard Rearguard Circle. This unit can only attack if you call Rearguard other than from hand this turn. Basically, same old Shieldfisher thing. Basically, same thing here. It doesn't do anything, and basically 18k body is useless, and you basically lose the drive check if you don't call something from other zones, other from hand. Thankfully, Shieldfisher has those things because surprisingly, he's got 2 support cards. And then second skill, which is the auto Vanguard Rearguard Circle. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, Soul Blast 1, form all the following based around the amount of units called to Rearguard other than from hand. So 2 or more, draw 1 card. Just an extra plus, that's very nice. 3 or more, this unit gets 10k power, counter charge 1, or energy charge 3. And then 4 or more, choose 1 grade 1 unit. It can attack an additional time this turn, but retire it at the end of the battle. So basically, the thought process between is basically Soul Blast for the cost of this ability is basically because Soul Blast is not something Shield Fisher focuses on, and that's something important for Shield Fisher's game plan. Not even the support cards used it. So it's basically a cost we can do without thinking about it much, unless you have other cards that do use the soul, then contemplate, but mostly it's not really something really important. Dual Morph just for draw one. Basically, if you're able to do both Blessed Rain Fairy and Headless Assault, which is both the units that support Shield Fisher that call themselves in drop zone, you get a free drop. So basically, Counter Blast 1, Energy Blast 3, you get a draw. Then 3 or more, this unit gets 10k power and Counter Charge 1, or Energy Charge 3, basically a refund to either Blessed Rain Fairy or Headless Assault. Plus Shield Fisher is able to hit the 28k, but if you did Headless Assault, he's a 33k, so he just hits a pretty decent number. And then 4 or more shield when you great one use, you can attack an additional time this turn, but retire it at the end of the battle. Basically makes it so that if you have... At first, one thing I can be flexible about this is like the grade 1, because we could probably add another grade, but a lot of the things about Shield Fisher, at least 2 support cards, are grade 1. So I assume they were trying to like force Shield Fisher on the grade 1 route. I'm not particularly sure. It's fairly weird. But we could just erase the grade and just add something else. But yeah, that's more or less the ability. What do you think, Momo? Think we can upgrade something and do something else for the unit in order to upgrade it? It's mostly just what I thought. I'm a big fan of Shield Fisher, so this is something that I've been wanting, but I know I'm never gonna get. Been a big fan of this unit for since it came out. It's just 18k body. He's just a big boy. He's just stubborn like that. And considering how it was initially in the meta, while we didn't have a lot of cards that could call from other circles, so Shield Fisher was very in comparison to some of the other bosses. Really? You think that's important? Considering how some of the other decks that are competing now, you think that's important? Because considering that we're fighting against Bavsakura, Zorga, and so on and so forth, I feel like great restricting any of these common cards, these upgrades for these common cards, is not necessarily, because while some of them could kill, I built these cards so they have the possibility to indeed do a kill, they are not likely to do it unless you actually get lucky on triggers and get good draws. I don't think they need a great restrict. At most, I would say keep the grade 1 restrict on Shield Fisher at most. Don't let him get a grade 2 to grade something like that, and just make it so Shield Fisher has to operate in with either tokens or the grade 1. Yeah, the extra attack is very neat. Also, the reason I added the 4th attack and also it retires itself is basically because if we do the 2nd attack and we do it with the grade 1 unit that's Blessed Rain Fairy, that basically Counter Blast 1, if you have a Shield Fisher on Vanguard Circle, you're able to Superior Call this card from drop zone and it gets plus 5k power. So basically, if you pull a trigger with this, or you somehow have a booster in the back that can give him enough power, then you can make it so that last attack, or you can do first attack Blessed Rain Fairy, and then second time when you restand it, you can do the booster, and then you can retire the grade 1 you're using there, so you can revive it next turn. So that's why I gave that oh yeah, just retire it, because then you can use it again. Because this card also could work if you have an order variant of this deck. You can also have a grade 2 unit that's called Coffin Shooter, which is a unit that reads a Soul Blast 1. This card has to be dropped in order to do this ability. Find an order from your drop zone, and then you're able to Superior Call this unit into an open rearguard circle. So basically, if you have an open rearguard circle, you can jump the Coffin Shooter, or you're able to do Blessed Rain Fairy or Headless Assault. Blessed Rain Fairy doesn't need an open circle to call itself, but Headless Assault does. So basically, just always having an open circle in case your opponent doesn't do retire mechanics or ain't aiming at your rear guards or something like that. So it's just gets an extra draw for the first condition. It's not that bad. Second skill, just make it so he's a 28k, 33k with other abilities and able to recur resource. Because sadly, if you're combining this in like an order function, you use up resources a lot because you don't run counter charge on this thing. Then, okay, then let's now jump. Then are you good with this one? And we can jump to the next one, because the next one is Iron Anchor, and he's the Alchemagic and he's the alternate Alchemagic. Yeah, I've been dreaming of this guy just getting a new card, and just like I sat down for like an hour in order to like contemplate this, but like I got it working somehow. Jeez, it took a while. I also wanted to implement like a defensive skill for him, like if you call 3 or more cards at the exact same time during a battle, this unit gains like a 10k or a 5k power, probably 5k, just make him 23k plus the power. But like that's for like later. I feel pretty happy with how it is, and he's still an 18k body, so I can't fully complain. Now we have Abyss Anchor Resentment Dragon the Wraith, which is the upgraded version of Iron Anchor Resentment Dragon. Iron Anchor is the alternate Alchemagic, which instead of using 2 different orders, you use 2 of the same order. Now he reads as follows: when you play a normal order, you may bind a normal order with the same card name from your drop zone and perform Alchemagic. So basically, have 2 of the same orders, 1 in drop, 1 in hand, Alchemagic, that one goes to bind zone. Then, second skill, Auto Vanguard Circle. If you perform Alchemagic, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, search for an order card from them, and add it to your hand. If you do not have a card with the same card name from your drop zone, place that order card in your drop zone. Okay, second skill. Then, third skill, Vanguard Circle. Continuous Vanguard Circle. For each order in your bind zone, Fumble units get power plus 5k. Then, Auto Vanguard Circle, the last skill. At the end of your turn, if you have 3 or more order cards in your bind zone, draw 1 card, choose either counter charge or soul charge. So, this is how I contemplated this particular unit. Sadly, something that's been happening a lot with the more implementation of Alchemagic is that they have been either name restricted by Zorga, or they are now being restricted by Zorga with the Divine skill. So basically, a lot of the Alchemagic cards that are being made now, while some of the lower rarity ones don't particularly have that limitation, sadly, a lot of them do. The really good ones, or like the really handy ones, we just don't have access to. So in order to make it so that this unit is able to operate on itself, I gave it quite a few skills in order to make him really handy. The first skill that I added is obviously a top 5 search for an order. If you do not have a copy of that order in the drop zone, it basically makes it so you're able to set it up. It works like the Grade 2 units in Stoicheia that also operates off Alchemagic, that also reads when this unit plays on rearguard circle from hand. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose an order card from amongst it. If you do not have that card in your drop zone, you drop that card into the drop zone. Basically, the idea is that you run that card first, place it on the drop zone, and then you do Alchemagic, and then you activate this ability in order to search for the next order you're going to be doing. So if you sent that other card, you basically deck thin, so you can search for the next order to add it to your hand. Or if you whiffed it or don't have like that card in drop zone, then you can just get that card in drop zone, and that's like less resource you have to drop either by guarding with that card or like dropping it in some way or form. Now for the third skill is obviously, in order to make it so that you're able to be a bit more flexible with these cards, and the fact that Zorga in the first Zorga came in with a free superior call for a counter blast, and this card basically is naked without his Alchemagic ability. It's the only thing he has for himself. I basically made it so for each order card in your bind zone, this unit gets 5k power to the front row, so your front row is always able to hit some way, shape, or form good enough numbers. So basically, if you do Alchemagic once, it's just a 5k to the opponent's it's for your front row, so you're able to hit a lot more easier numbers. But if you're able to also sheet it out with other units that can bind orders from drop zone, or just bind orders in general, so you can sheet out the 5k to make it 10k or 15k, but it's gonna cost you an extra bit of resources and deck space. So there. And then for the last ability is just an extra ability in order to get another card in hand, and just able to generate a counter charge soul charge. Obviously, I feel like this is a bit much, but considering we've been locked out like basically a lot of the good Alchemagic stuff, this is basically an Alchemagic unit that does not have the exact same advantage as Zorga does. So, and because they also took another order from us, which is the triple drive one for our units. So basically we can't Alchemagic with that card either. So basically I made it so that this card as an Alchemagic unit and one that's not Zorga is able to survive on its own for as long as possible. So that was my thought process with this. What do you think, Momo? Really proud of this one. I actually like this unit very much. I like this alternate Alchemagic. It was a very cool concept when it came out. I still think it's a fairly cool concept, but it's like Uchi just ignored this and just was like, yeah, Zorga. Which I sort of understand. He was like, Mazanori uses it. He's in the anime. People like Mazanori. Even people love the voice actor cosplaying as Mazanori. But like, wish Alchemagic was something a lot more generic. Then I would cut down in some of the skills. Like, they're not as dangerous as they seem, but like, yeah, that's particularly important. It's like, it's a sad thing. I thought they were gonna be doing like keywords or like certain things like that. So keywords would have been like an easier way of like managing certain abilities, and like, yeah, if you Alchemagic, you can do that. If you do Overdress, you can do that. If you do Final Rush, you can do that. The only one that really was the outlier was like Prison and Magnolia, but it was just like, doesn't particularly matter, does it? But sadly, they went away from like most of them ran away from like from keywords and then just do this. Like, there's some other mechanics on Vanguard that they can do like with that, but sadly, Alchemagic was basically just Zorga and that's it. It's fairly disappointing. This looked very fun, and genuinely, some of the Dear Days people genuinely look like, oh, you're making fun cards. Like, some of the cards are bad, but like, this is a very fun concept. That's about it. Momo, did you get it? Because we are switching to the next one. I contemplated that as well. I'll just make it so that the power is more selfish. But the reason I thought of just making it this, you do have a point. Yeah, it does. But the mostly reason I thought about it was partially because of the mechanic. You see, the only good deck, or at least decent enough deck that I thought of, or that people have thought of with Iron Anchor, is mostly one involving a particular order that lets you basically give 5k to your front row, and also with a counterblast superior call unit from your drop zone. But it's like the only one that can really do that. So basically, if you Alchemagic, you have 10k power and you call 2 cards. But the problem with that is that basically it's the only Alchemagic that really gives us power, and any other card that does Alchemagic that's really worth or that was good for this deck doesn't generate enough power for this deck. So yep. And also the fact that in comparison to the other guys that are very selfish with their power, or so on and so forth, don't have like he isn't as lethal as the other guys, like getting more power or have like abilities like that. The next guy we're going to show is a lot more selfish in the way he operates. So I gave it that unit a bit more selfish abilities, but since basically I want to see this card operate with other orders, I basically like, yeah, just give front row 5k. Like, you're only going to be doing Alchemagic like once per turn. You're only binding one card once per turn. Technically, you can sheet out more, but like, yeah, basically you'll only be getting at most 5k power. If you sheet it, then you can get 10k power to the front row, but front row is going to be like an 8k or 10k swing, so it's going to be 30k, and there's no like restanding mechanics on this deck with that you can fit with resentment. So it's just like, yeah, it's something that I was really contemplating while sitting down with these cards, was just like, how can I like combine the flavor text plus the fact of the how it operates and the name. So I was just like, okay, then just like in this case, Iron Anchor Resentment Dragon, the thought process was he went to the Abyss to gain more power because Alchemy Magic is a bit more stronger, so he's able to do like field more power. So Abyss Anchor, so drop the Iron, and then Resentment Dragon Wraith. So it's a lot more. It's a more of a. It looks zombie like zombie Frankensteinish. So now it's more like Wraith. Like it's like a vengeful spirit, like it's actually trying, a zombie dragon trying to kill you. Well, it is a zombie, to be fair. So, yeah, that was basically the concept around it. So, and basically, yeah, just extra draw, extra counter charge is basically because usually when you're doing Anka magic with this guy, you are dropping quite a few things. Especially, yeah, it's resource. What, the Dragon Empire one? Which one? Oh, Unfixable, the last one. Okay, let's jump to him. What do you think we could do with him in order to make him Tiltis Dragon Musashi armor? What do you think we could do with him? Because the best I could think of was like because the best I could think of was like make a better version of this unit and make it like a superior rideable. And like throw your idea while I'm just mumbling here. But basically the best I could think of was like make Okay, I'm listening. Go on. I'm listening. What do you got for me, Momo? He does have multiple weapons. Wish he was more units with same name or something. Well, that'd be more stealth, wouldn't it? It'd be like Momo. Could be. We could make an upgraded version of Musashi armor. Could be a unit that you basically start off with Musashi armor, but the other unit is able to superior ride on top of it. And then because he rode on top of Musashi armor, he's able to gain an extra skill in addition to its skill. That's interesting. Like, what do you have as an idea for that? Because with that idea, I'm contemplating basically the fact that he gets an ability because he rode on top of Musashi armor, or you have Musashi armor in soul. Actually, not bad. Oh wait, I broke there for a second. Jesus. Okay, well, what's your deal, Momo? Because I got the superior ride thing. The superior ride doesn't sound bad. Because we can do superior ride, and basically, since it works as a persona, we can make it so that even though he that is a thought process. And what's the other one? Because I think we have a good idea there. It doesn't have to be persona rights. I think we got something better, but it's along those routes. That route in particular. Because we can totally do a superior ride and then like something like to add to it. Because we could make this the upgraded Momo. For each person. Weapons out each person. What I'm contemplating with that idea is that we have the upgraded Musashi armor would operate basically as he can superior right if you have an Musashi armor in board, basically the base one, this one right here. And basically what we could do is that even though he rode like on top, you don't activate Persona Ride, but the Persona Ride is delayed for like next turn, but also a skill on top of it. Let me take my notes out. Let me get my notepad out. This is worth contemplating. Give me a sec. You're cooking, Momo. You're cooking. Where's Musashi armor? There it is. Taking out that unfixable, we're adding things here. So basically, superior ride. Hell yeah. It's a good idea. I genuinely didn't have like a proper idea like how to get this. Yeah, basically I'm the basically that's what I'm doing. Be superior ride on top of Musashi armor. And we have a delayed Persona Ride skill. And then if we want to incorporate your idea of him having basically multiple weapons and basically him being like well versed in all martial arts and battle hardened warrior, we can make it so that it has a variety of skills, and depending on the amount of Musashi armors we have on Soul or copies of the other guy, so the other guy basically will have this unit's regarded as Tiltless Dragon Musashi armor, Vanguard and Rear and Soul. So we can give it like a bunch of different skills. Like we can give him like 3 or more. We can give him 3 different skills he have for each Musashi armor he has on Soul. Like we can make him like versatile. We can make him either have a retire ability or an ability that retires and does something else, an ability that gives himself in front row power. And basically, the more Musashi armors we have, the more we can activate more of those abilities. So if we only have 1, then we can activate 1 of these abilities. If we manage to survive to the next turn, we have 2 abilities. That is an idea. I'm noting this down, man. We're contemplating this, and I'm just noting this down. Let's see. Gets certain abilities. Get. Yeah, he's. Yeah, he basically switching out weapons, and yeah, we're cooking here. He gets access to a ability for each copy of Musashi armor, and we can activate the different abilities for each. Yep. Yep, because we are adding a... Oh, you're contemplating like activating persona early? Because in that case, what I was thinking of is having the persona ride skill either delayed. So basically, when we ride on top the first time, the persona ride ability is not activated during that time, but instead, it's the persona ride ability is active for next turn. Obviously, oh well, that would throw a wrench on like doing multiple persona rides, but it makes it so like it's easier to do this though. We would have to find a way of like shoving another Musashi armor to soul. Ooh, wait. We can make it so that in order to activate the ability of Musashi armor, the ability of like getting other skills, the cost is put a card from your hand into your soul. Oh, wait a minute. We're cooking with this. We're cooking with this. We could make it a counterblast. Actually, no. Just put a card from your hand into your soul. So, that's sort of dangerous. Oh, no. We could do an alternative. We could have a either you counterblast one or you put a card from your hand into your soul, and then you can unlock the various abilities depending on this or that. So basically, we can make it so that Musashi armor, when you ride the first time, if you have another copy in your hand, you have both the delayed persona ride for the other turn, but you also have access to the other Musashi armor. So you basically, even if you're not able to persona ride the other turn, you still have the persona ride ready because you rode this guy first. But you also get access to 2 abilities early for if you have the different Musashi armors. Ooh, it also validates the fact of like adding extra Musashi armor so we can just like make more abilities. Oh yeah, this is no taking time. This is... You are cooking. Oh yeah, I'm just banning these guys. Give me a sec. Ban. And oh, yeah, these are the exact same box. That's weird. It's the exact same bot doing it twice. That's weird. Already banned. Yeah, exact same guy, isn't it? Yep. Okay, yeah. We're cooking. I mean, I am taking notes of this. 100%. And even if we don't... And also the fact that we're not sacrificing a lot of resource in order to... Us not fully committing of like always putting a card from hand to soul, we can make it so it's counterblast instead or like a soul blast instead. So that we don't have to fully commit of like, oh, we always have to have a copy of Musashi armor and shove it into soul in order to activate the ability. So if we can just do next turn, if we have a copy of Musashi armor in our hands, we can persona ride, and then we can just run the other copy and shove it into soul. So if we have a copy of the old one, we can just shove it into soul in order to unlock a new ability. And if we have the new one, we can just save it for persona ride. But they're basically named the same, so it's not a loss at most. If you have the old one, at least you get the persona ride. So something. Which Musashi armor in soul. Has the same name as the original. So you can persona ride with either. So basically now we have to like build like skills in order to see of like how far can we push him to be like a lot more viable. So at the moment we have Superior Ride on top of Musashi Armor, and we have a delayed Persona skill. So next turn we have Persona Ride. Get access to ability for each copy of Musashi Armor. So basically either the new one or the old one. Yeah. Well, it's fairly different than Virina as far as I understand. But like at least with the sort of having a Persona Ride mechanic, it has like that extra identity similar to either Tashikaze, where it had like a sort of Persona Ride mechanic, but it also has like the elements of like Murakumo, of like units with the exact same name or something. Like, yeah, we managed to get a Murakumo element onto this card that actually works. Like, yeah, these two cards have the exact same name, so you can just trade around them. Although technically this is the one you want to throw away. But like, hey, it's something, you know, we take our wins. You are cooking today, Momo. You are on fire today. So we have extra skill. They both have the same name, so you can do interchange Persona Rides in case of emergencies, but you can just keep shoving Musashi Armors. Now we need skills. Now I'm contemplating of quite a few things. Sorry I made that small for a second. Yeah, you are on fire today. Okay, it's back. Mostly close it so I can fire up Cardfight area just to see what how we can synergize this properly, to see what other cards we can just run through this. That is the thought process. Oh, what can we do? Because I know they have something like that looks like they can drag. Something that is an idea. Yeah, you're right. Okay, basically it's got something that looks like a Leaf Reeker. So basically, it probably is to like hook people, like hooking them by the neck or something like that. So that is interesting. So we could probably add. What can we add? Can we add? I would imagine a retire ability with that. Well, any of the weapons you can contemplate a retire ability. But with that one, maybe considering when we are contemplating basically having how many Musashi Armored installs, if we're contemplating having a Persona Ride and something like that, You're right. So we could have something that gives power to him, something that can give power to the board. We could give him retire. Yeah, because we contemplate basically that we can get at most. Yeah. There we go. That's the cooking we need. That's what we need. Only you know how to cook. 100% know how to cook. So basically, we need a selfless ability in order for him to get power. An ability in order to give power. An ability for defensive purposes, most likely. Another ability if we're gonna have like a Murakuma. Yeah, it's just like, it's really good. It's like, it's not the most broken monster, to be fair. But like, considering we're going to be running 7 other cards in the deck, including the original Musashi Armor and the one we're making, because basically that's 8 cards including the Vanguard, but we only get access to 7. So we basically, at most we can get to 8, but let us assume we can reach at most 6. So we're basically giving it a wall of abilities. Like basically we're doing a bulleted list of abilities that Musashi Armor could access to. So the first I'm contemplating, maybe instead of like a selfless ability, give 10k to the front row. So give 10k to the front row. Let me note these down. Plus 10k front row. Maybe. Okay, let's look at the weapons. I gotta look at the weapons the exact same time I do this. Give 10k to the front row. Wish we could make it so that it's like something that gives like a morale boost. Probably. True. Okay, let's slow that down. Give intercepts. Give intercept, and let's say at minimum plus 5k to rear guards. On the one hand, it's a bit of a situation. It really depends. Let me check a Cardfight area to see what other units we have to see what we can rely on. Because the most I could think of is like the Musashi armor, considering how it works. We could technically build it with nymphs, but we can also build it with like other stuff. There's like a bunch of generic cards. There's even cards that can search out another grade 3 copy. So there are technically cards that can work with Musashi armor, but like nothing like super concrete. 5k power. Let's see. I'm looking. Nymph is a thought process, but it is a thought process with a lot of counterblasts. Oh wait, it does have a grade 1. Let me look at the grade 1 a bit. There we go. It is a... If your Vanguards plays this turn by writing from Musashi armor in its card name and you persona road, this unit gains 10k power. So we can make it so the 10 persona road technically is active, but the that is a way to think about it, actually. Yes. Basically, complete these lists and you can just grab on this. Except Musashi is more like pick an ability and just do that. When this unit is placed on rear guard, if you are this is placed on rear guard, or if you have a soul hawker with Musashi armor, it's carding, draw a card. Oh, it doesn't do spirit call. It does get draw though. So instead of it being counterblast in order to activate the ability, we could do soul blast so it doesn't interfere as much. In order for this unit to at least get the plus draw ability, that could be it. So either counterblast or so either soul blast. No, I think counterblast would be better. Yeah. So give 10k front row, give intercept, and 5k to rear guards. Actually, I don't think the rear guard is gonna be as bad because considering how certain decks are, you could just lose your entire board. So while you can make it so that you can get 5k shield, because it's shield. 5k shield to the rear guard. We got 10k power to front row. That's not bad. Let's assume our retire ability because of the hammer. So retire one rear guard. And then in combination with that, we could do 10k front row, And like another ability to do, give intercept and 5k shield to the two rear guards in general, so they can like intercept from other places. But it involves like you committing board and so on and so forth. Oh wait, but how we build Musashi armor? Yeah, Armed Wing Dragon can operate fine. It's gonna be janky, but it can work. Yeah, exactly. It has like good abilities that you could add like into like others that, but it works in its own deck in particular as well. Plus, you have to actually look for the grade 3 in order to do the superior right and do the rest of the mechanic. Which there are other cards that can do it, but you can just whiff and then just have like a Musashi armor just there doing nothing. Which in by itself gives it like a proper reason to like probably start off with the new one and have this Musashi armor just be something you can just slot in or like emergency persona, right? But yeah. So we have a retire 1 rear guard and retire 1 rear guard. What can we pair with like retire rear guard? What can we do to like make that better? Because we're basically gonna give him like one really good skill. But like for each Musashi armor, you get another good skill. Basically, just like if you build this deck properly or like know how to pilot it properly and you're lucky enough with your draws, you're able to like pivot. And also the fact that this deck can also pivot against any deck. So basically against any other deck, it can do its mechanics, but it's not like the best deck against that deck. It's just a deck that can adapt. So basically it makes it so the rear guards get 5k shield and they can intercept from like any place in the board, but it's the rear guards that have the extra 5k shield. If they're not able to intercept and so on and so forth, they basically do nothing, or if you pop them. Hello Twitch Mikey, how are you? Welcome. We are, well, I was contemplating showing off the upgrades of the common boss monsters that we got from standard, but I had a problem with a particular unit that I couldn't brainstorm properly an ability to upgrade it with. But Momo had been brainstorming me with good ideas, so we're upgrading Momo Musashi armor to make him playable. We can make this guy a deck somehow, but we can do it. But yeah, Momo's just been cooking the entire night. As soon as Momo was in, he was just like, oh yeah, I got an idea with Musashi armor. I'm like, no way. And as soon as Momo, we can fix, basically. It was just like Momo shit. I was just like, I can't do this, and Momo is just like, I can do it. I can take her on. Momo is built different. That's all I can say. But basically, yeah, we're trying to fix Musashi armor. After we like finish brainstorming with Musashi, we can look at like the other cards because I did properly cook with the other ones. But we're working with like Musashi armor. Okay, so basically, let me repeat what we have for now, Mikey. For now, for Musashi armor, when we're making a basically cross ride or like a newer version of Musashi armor, what we're contemplating first is that it's the new unit you can superior ride from hand onto this unit, and yeah, exactly. Nah, Momo, you are built different for this one. You are built. I was just like, I sat with this card for like nearly 2 hours, and I was just like, I got nothing. But you were just like, oh yeah, I have an idea. You are built different. Okay, so for the new Musashi armor, we have superior ride on top of the original Musashi armor, and we have a delayed persona ride skill. So we don't have persona ride activated at the moment, but we have a persona ride ready for next turn. So we are able to like have persona ride ready and loaded for next turn, in case we don't want to ride early, in case we want to switch it out. We also have gets access to ability for each Musashi armor. So the new unit and the old Musashi armor both have the exact same name, both on Vanguard and Rearguard and Soul. So basically, the more we have, the more abilities we get access to. And we're basically making Musashi armor a jack of all trade but master of none. He has a bunch of abilities that can be useful for like any other card would like to have this ability on top of their skill set, but this guy has like all these abilities, but all these abilities don't have. You are Fumble, you've been touching the Mega Colony pile, have you? That's what it seems like. You've been looking at Mega Colony and you were like, ooh, I want to be devious like them. That is dangerous. So we can have retire 1 rear guard and minus 5k. Yup. Yeah, not worth. Okay, minus 5k to Vanguard. Opponent's Vanguard. Also, something I did note about like we can make the delayed persona ride only if it's like our first Musashi armored ride. Only if it's our first ride. So basically, we can only do the superior ride if we draw into more copies, but it's better to just have the copies in hand. Because then we got, okay. If it's the first ride, we have a delayed persona ride, but for next turn, we have a persona ride. But we can, it minimizes the, it's a case-on-case basis. Basically have original Musashi to have the other one so we can have just ride. It's like a card more, but like it's like we have persona ride lock and ready for next turn. That's what I'm thinking. We're just contemplating here. Minus 5k to opponent's Vanguard. Let's have oh wait, I got it. Instead of retire 1 rear guard, how about retire either front row or back row? No. How about retire a column? Retire 1 column. Like choose a rear guard, choose a column and retire it. Choose a column. And retire the entire column. Like we have that entire ability, and then we have the ability of minus 5k opponent's Vanguard. Yeah, because we're basically just stacking. Basically, Musashi, if we're able to get more copies of him into Soul, then we're basically just like, oh yeah, we're just doing all these things. Screw it. But we have to, but the cost is high because we need to get a grade 3. We basically got to run a bunch of these grade 3s in order to make it work. To opponent's Vanguard, and what can we add to that? I think a minus 5k to opponent's Vanguard is fine enough. We have 4 skills for now. We have retire a column, give intercept and 5k to our rear guards. And plus 10k from row, minus 5k to opponent's Vanguard. Because anyway, basically with the first time we do the skill, we got 2 skills active. And in the next turn, if we ride again or get to shove a Musashi, we have 1. But if you get to ride again, we got 4. So you can probably get plus 5k to the front row. You can intercept with your board, or you can pop a column, or like it's a lot more that you have to like commit. But it's also like shove something counterblast. So it's a -1, you can do things. What other thing we could do? I'm thinking of the thing that the saw thing. What can we do with the saw thing? With the saw thing, I'm contemplating like something involving like haunting. So maybe choose a card from drop and call it to rear, most likely. Thinking that probably. Choose a card from drop and call it to rear. Like, okay, let's see. Like, let me show you what I'm writing right now. Let's see. Okay, create another notes. You can be honest. I don't mind. You're here just contemplating abilities. Okay, save. Yeah, he has like a chainsaw thing. It's not really a chainsaw because it has like it actually has like things there. But like he has a chainsaw thing. Do we have some notes? There we go. Those are the notes I have for now. Like, this is all we have for now for, like, Tiltless Dragon Musashi armor. Yeah, it's like, it's extended, but it has, like, something. I'm pretty sure it has a name. I don't know the name, though. I don't study this thing. It has the hammer, it has that chainsaw thing and the hammer thing. So we're giving it, like, 6 skills. Choose a card from drop, call it to rear, and probably give it 5k. And the plus 5k, it's like additional power, but it's not like gonna do much. And like for the last skill, like make him do everything. Like it has like give rear shield, so it has the power to give intercept to those units as well. So it's like a busted skill for like rear guards, but if they pop all the rears, we're dead. But it pairs well with like a choose a card from your drop, give it extra 5k power. But if we have 30 or more, we can also pair with like the plus 5k from row. But like, what other ability can we give it? What other ability can we give this man? Very. Because I'm thinking with like, the hammer is the one that pops the column, I think. The minus 5k could be the chainsaw thing. Huh? The counterblast for ability just shoves the soul for ability. Shove a card to soul for ability. Yeah, that's fine. So either counterblast or shove the soul for ability in order to proc. So you're able at least to always proc ability. Yeah, I don't want to give it like an extra cost. Extra cost would be too dangerous. Make it probably unplayable. It's already basically unplayable. Extra unit to guard. Oh, like a guard restrict. It sounds kind of broken though. Like, it feels like I can combine that and like give front row. You have to guard with like 3 or more cards. Like if they're at 5 damage, that's like killing them. So, But considering the draw consistency of some of the decks, does it really matter as much though? Considering there's a lot of basically, okay. You're probably like a guard restricted 2 cards. But basically the thought process is you're doing the whole Musashi thing. You're either counterblasting or putting a card for the soul. You have to run 8 copies, 7 copies into your deck of this card and the other and the new one we're making. There's not a lot of cards that can support Musashi Armor's particular play style. Pretty fair. Okay. Yeah, he somehow is able to like pincer you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see it. Well, not that then it would not necessarily be. It would be more like this card gets the guard restrict. Okay, yeah, okay. None of these give crit though. It doesn't really. It could matter a bit. Considering we have a bunch of skills, crit doesn't matter. Okay. You're right. Ooh, okay. Oh, wait, you're spitting on things. We can make it so that he has like 5 abilities he can access to. But if he's able to activate 3 or more, so to speak. So basically, okay, you're spitting. If you can activate 3 or more of his abilities, then considering there's not like multi-attacks and so on and so forth, we're not really dropping like much power. It's not that bad actually. It's not bad. If you have 3 or more of his abilities, then you can, then your front row. Oh wait, then your front row, then we can give the front row gets 10k power. And guard restrict. So we can change the 10k power to something else. Yeah, you can't activate it first turn. You basically got it like second turn. You gotta activate it. Okay, it's fine. Yeah. This could be like the last weapon. Yeah, you got a bunch of tools anyway. You got the plus 10k to front row. You can give it up to your roll. So if you have a full board, you can do things. You can choose a column and pop it. You can minus 5k the opponent's Vanguard. And then you can choose a card from drop and call it to rear to give it plus 5k. Yeah, it's like it's versatile enough. Like, yeah. You probably even like first turn, you're probably gonna be doing the plus 5k front row. And you're probably doing like either the superior call or like the give extra shield if you have like trying to bunker down on like the minus 5k the opponent's Vanguard. Yeah, you're onto yeah, I like this a lot. This is actually a very good idea for an ability. Yeah. You're onto something. I genuinely think this is a good idea, honestly. Because it's just like he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's a Vanguard, and he's not really like. And all these abilities just do different things, and it's not like focused, and it's not like he has a lot of support, and there's a lot of cards that can help him out. Ooh, this is very nice. This is very, very nice. Because some of these abilities are really good, but not all of them are incredible. The plus 5k front row is during your turn, obviously. Like, that's a really good ability. But, like, the intercept and plus 5k shield is only good if you're able to make a board and able to maintain the board. So he's only defensive during those situations. He can pop a column and retire it, but if your column has, like, 1 card, it's not, like, the best retire. You can minus 5k the Vanguard, which is really good, but this guy doesn't really, like... Basically, in order to mount an offensive, you're fine, but, like, most decks can just... In their great 2 turn, they can basically pivot and kill you. And you don't amount, like, a lot of power during your turn. In that case, I prefer to give only 5k to the front row then. And then, if you have 3 or more activated front row, gets another 5k power. And the guard restrict. Opponent must guard with 2 or more. Because it's not like you're making crazy numbers. They're usually making, like, really man numbers. Like, really, really, really man numbers. It's very unlikely that, like, this kills. Okay, now this seems a bit more balanced. It, like, gives 5k front row, which is, like, good, but it's like a 10k. At most, it gets, like, 15k, so that unit has to have, like, an extra power boost or something. You have the Persona Ride. Oh, wait. I'm contemplating on the Persona Ride ability. Like, in the Persona Ride ability, we could make it so that... We can make it so the Persona Ride ability is... Yeah. You are correct. Which one is it, though? The one that is another Samurai Dragon. Which one do we have? Oh, I know I know the one. I know what you're talking about. Well, that one is the Unrivaled that retires and does the restanding mechanic. This is the guy who never mastered anything, but, like, is really good with each weapon. Like, he has retires. He can call upon his buddies from the drop zone. Yeah, he can just do a bit of everything, but is not really good at, like, anything in particular. I like it. I think this is, like, the proper way we can do this. For the name, sadly, I'll have to, like, contemplate it and, like look sources in order to, like, make it work. Or, like, fight ChatGPT in order to, like, try to, like, come up with a different, like, it's something goodish name. But, like, fight it. Like, punch it in the face. It's like, that sounds... Yup. Oh, Benkei versus Musashi. That's crazy. I love it. But honestly, this is amazing. Thank you so much, Momo, for your amazing contribution. You basically made this unfixable card somehow fixable. Oh boy. Also, it's fairly balanced. We didn't give it a triple drive. We could have been like, yes, just give it triple drive. Screw it. Which honestly is something I could contemplate. Use a column, give intercept, shows the rear guard. I feel like this needs a draw or something, or like something that can give it draw. How about choose a card from your drop, call it to rear, or add it to hand? Yeah. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's a really appreciated. This is a lot of work, but thank you so much. Now, without further ado, I think this is where I'm dropping off. Oh yeah, I've nearly been done 2-hour streams. I thought this was gonna be short. Jesus. Thanks, Momo, for helping me work this out and make the stream longer. But without further ado, we shall be raiding somebody else. So we shall be looking into who can we raid. Let's see. What do we have here? What do I have that I'm following here that can just like raid? Like, let's see. We got. Thank you for hanging out, Momo. I haven't seen you in a bit, so it's nice having you. We're probably gonna be playing Deer Days. I'm doing a challenge run of Deer Days, which is basically a masochist format on Tuesday. So if you want to drop by, you can drop by. It's basically 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. where I'm doing that again. So thank you so much for hanging out. We're going to be having a lot of fun. Now I'm going to be dropping us off on somewhere. Dropping us off. Who is here? I haven't seen Suiko in a bit. I'll drop into Suiko. They're playing Deep Rock Galactic. So if anybody wants to say hi from there, Ray, go ahead. They're playing some Deep Rock. They're a cool person. I haven't seen them in a bit. Thank you everybody for coming. I'll be seeing you guys later. I'll be back on Tuesday. I'll be working on other stuff in the meantime. So I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.